Hey guys, it's Kevin with Mix Coach. Today I want to do something just a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary, and I want to bring a Mix Coach member on who's had a lot of success here lately. Matt keeps texting me and saying, "Hey man, I got another one," and the count kept going up till I thought, man, people need to hear this stuff, and I need to call Matt and find out what he's been doing. So today on this call, on this Skype call, I've got Matt Butler. He is the co-owner of Butler Music Group. He and his dad run a company that's big in the bluegrass world, big in the gospel world, and Matt and his dad have been totally crushing some radio actions. Matter of fact, Matt's had three bluegrass number one songs, three number one songs on the bluegrass charts, and he's got one song that's number one on the gospel charts. And it looks like, and maybe he'll expand on this a little bit more. It looks like he's got another one coming up. So I wanted to just kind of like talk to Matt, find out, if he's got some secret sauce that he can tell us about, or whatever. But anyway, Matt, hey, thanks for taking some time out so early this morning and talking to me on Skype. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Very blessed.
So tell me, how long have you been how long have you been engineering? Just kind of start us back at the beginning. How'd you get started?
Well, basically, I was around it my whole life with, my dad when we moved here producing, and I always went to him with sessions, hang out with the players, the engineers. He used Oak Valley a lot, so I was around, McManus a lot and Terry T. And it all started there. And I'd already been a musician. Wasn't necessarily as interested at that time in the engineering aspect. I thought I wanted to be a player, and then you get around, Jason Webb and Brent Mason and Kevin Grant and all these guys, and you're like, I might want to head a different direction.
Right.
So then I started getting more interested in that, and then basically a lot of things in life happened. I got away from it for a long time, and then I basically went full time with it. And let's see, I believe, I want to say, because time flies, 2011, maybe 2012, but I think 2011, pretty sure, is when I started pursuing it full time with my dad. And basically got a Pro Tools rig for the house, a couple microphones, cheap interface. We started from that, and it's grown into us doing, instead of us, having to rent out a ton of studios and hire engineers and things like that. I'm doing everything. We have interns now. Everything seems to just really be smooth and going really well right now. So that's how it started for me. And let's see, was it 2013 when I jumped on the Mix Coach train? Pretty sure it was 2013.
Yeah.
At the recommendation of Adam Borden. He said, man, Kevin Ward has started this website, and you got to check it out, man. And I went home and I told my dad, and he's like, well, Kevin Ward knows what he's doing, so sign up. Sign up now. I'm all for it. And basically, that's when I really started focusing on taking it to the next level. It kind of, because I had reached a point where, not necessarily that I was frustrated, but without actually going to school for it and things like that, you kind of reach a point where you're studying the magazines and this and that, but without like just hands-on like intern type stuff. Mix Coach was a way for me to kind of have hands-on intern-like experience, because you would, break down tutorials. We would get the files to mix. We would interact with one another. So it was basically like doing an online internship is how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, as they say, the rest is history. And things just kind of exploded from there.
Wow, that's cool. Well, one thing you mentioned in there, when engineers say, I'm a musician too, a lot of people discount the fact that a lot of people think that musicians or that engineers are frustrated musicians. That is not the case in some of the best engineers that I have found. And to be honest with you, I was a little guilty of that when people told me that you were an accomplished musician, I was like, yeah, maybe like me.
Yeah.
I can play a little bit of, and I can get parts down and things like that, and I can feel good about it. But man, I heard you play in the studio one time. You and your dad came over to my studio when it was in Tennessee and did some stuff, and you started playing like some jazz. Man, you are a very accomplished musician. You understand the workings of music, and to me, I have found that engineers that understand music and can communicate, first of all,
Yes.
with musicians, those tend to be the engineers that can get what they, because we all have this battle of like, I hear a certain thing in my head, and I
Hmm.
and I need to get it to where it comes out of the speakers the way I'm hearing it in my head.
Absolutely.
And so if you can't communicate sometimes, and you don't know what the note is that you don't want, or what the sound is that you want,
Hmm.
it's really frustrating, and you can get frustrated. So uh, uh, tell me a little bit about your musical background.
When I was 9, I started playing bass, and that was the first thing I started because bass is the foundation of everything. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door of learning just the fundamental elements of music without really overcomplicating it, trying to learn different chords on guitar and thing like that. And after I started taking off with that, picked up the guitar. I said, I want to learn this. My dad showed me G, C, and D, and then when he got home that night, I was playing a lot of other stuff. And then that really took off, the guitar playing. And after that, I was like, well, I'm going to monkey around with the mandolin. And I kept messing with it, and that came really easy. And after that, started tinkering with the banjo and the dobro. And I mean, it was, just kind of took off from there. And then in I had a really blessed opportunity in middle school. Actually, I went to a magnet program school that had a jazz band, a rock band, stuff like that. And the teacher was an incredible jazz bass player, and actually took lessons with Victor Wooten for like 4 years, I think.
Wow.
So I mean, I mean, he was a really accomplished jazz player and just really knew music. And he was the first guy that really took my playing to the next level. And I ended up being the leader of the jazz band, the leader of the rock band, and after that, going into high school, I did orchestra, jazz band in high school. I actually got to my senior year teach advanced music theory, and so that really helped set the foundation. For me, I think it's great too, for an engineer to have that kind of background, like you were saying, because I mean, being able to not just read a chart, but understand the chart or read sheet music in a session. I mean, it helps you out a lot as you engineer, and then in post production. And sometimes the producer's not always around, and maybe you hear something vocally that it sounds really cool. If you have a really deep understanding of the theory behind music, and you can take some liberties and stuff, and really put on the producer's hat at the same time. And a lot of times anymore, you've got to play that role because people don't even have the budget to pay for a producer. You're having to budget everything and just be a one man show. So we're doing a lot of projects where I'll play 90% of the instruments, and then we're doing everything in house just so it'll fit the budget. And since you can do that, they'll come to you because they're saving money
Hmm.
when you just bundle one whole big package. So that's how my musical journey got started, and that's how it's still helping me today.
Right. So what I'm hearing is something that I've always kind of adapted and kind of, I guess, taught is that, a lot of people want to be. This is a conversation I've had several times in the last several months, and I'll say, hey, where are you trying to go? And they say, engineers will say, I want to be a mix engineer. I want to be a Chris Lord-Alge, or I want to be a, Bob Clearmountain or something like that. And that what I have been telling them is that is a relatively new concept of just being a certain sub talent or subset of
Sure,
talents. Back in the day,
you did it all.
an engineer was basically somebody who built a console, most likely built the microphones or built the studio. Um, I mean, one of our heroes, Kevin McManus, you talk to him
Mhm.
about his engineering is like, yeah, I built the, I mean, he didn't build the consoles, but basically he built the studio. He put the
Mhm.
whole thing together.
Yeah.
And I think what's kind of a lost art form now. And I think that if people can lock this in like you have, is that mixing engineers, I mean, to mix is definitely something you need to be strong at, but communication is another thing you need to be strong at. Being able to know when to take out a part, when to not use plugins, when to do that sort of thing. That engineers at their core really, at least in the modern age, need to be first and foremost problem solvers. I mean, that's what we kind of are. If you've got a song in your head, and you want to get it to radio, well, the first thing that needs to happen is somebody needs to arrange the song, or somebody needs to tweak the lyric or help you tweak the lyric. And then the next thing that needs to happen is like, we need to throw a demo down. And the next thing that either needs to happen is, like in your case, I need to put down the band, or we need to hire a band and have those connections and stuff like that. So I think if engineers can look at themselves as problem solvers, then they are not limited by the fact that, like, well, I'm a pretty good mixer, and I'm just waiting on somebody to call me and say, "Hey, I heard you were a good mixer," because that's a real limiting mindset.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because man, especially as competitive as it is here, like in Nashville. I mean, because you lived here a long time and understand and know. I mean, dude, I'm not above doing anything. If you just need, edits done, and there's advanced editing is an advanced skill. It really is.
Yeah.
And man, I'll do that in a heartbeat all day long. And if if it pays, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Tuning vocals, things like that, man. I mean, there's so much more to just mix. And again, I mean, a lot of guys that want to specialize in that have no idea how to really capture a good recording, and that's a problem to me. I mean, you've got to be. I mean, your music's only going to sound as good as it was, straight from the source. People think the most overused phrase that I can't stand is, we'll fix it in the mix.
I knew that was coming.
So, and so, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you just, overuse-itis happens, man. There's a plug-in for everything now, and that's what everyone relies on. And,
Right.
And it gets frustrating.
Right.
So,
I'm working with a band at a church, and one of the things I have been saying lately is that good front of house sound starts on the stage with the player, because if you've got a drummer that doesn't hit consistently, then you're basically you can't get him loud enough or soft enough at the same time in the mix. I told the bass player one time, I said, your loudest note is the note that people are, especially front of house now in the studio. You can go through and nudge every note and make it even. You can run it through 14 compressors, and you can clip gain and all that kind of stuff. But that takes a lot of time to do. When it goes by, at the very beginning, it starts with the musician. And if you have to go and ride every note, first of all, you can't do it. Second of all, you can't afford to concentrate on just bass guitar or drums. So it's we're honored, you and I both, because I still use a lot of Nashville guys, to be able to work with guys who completely understand that. One of the things I have found is that a lot of guys who are just starting out, who are not getting number ones, who are not even getting a lot of work, and who are, who tend to use the overuse-itis, as you call it, on plugins, those are the guys that have never had the privilege of working with a musician that basically he plugs into your board. And it's like, what else could I do to that to make it great? It's already great, And they don't realize that there is so much more above fixing. Then you can be creative. You don't have to be creative about making the parts sound right. You can just be creative about making the song feel right now. So
yes, absolutely, for sure.
So briefly, let's go back to. Can you recap that first number one for us? Tell us who it was for. Kind of anything that special happened, any tips that you can give us on just mixing a number one worthy song?
Well, the first number one was the group called Heaven's Mountain Band, and I can't remember which song it is because they've had three of the number ones, and I can't remember which one the first one was. But basically, the three last singles they sent out ended up going number one, and the one that's about to go number one is another group that I'll talk about that in a minute because and this record's it's just great. So I mean, I'll just talk about it just from a record beyond. I'm not even talking about what I did. I'll just mention some of the players and stuff like that. But with bluegrass music specifically, because I kind of have a niche for that. I've been around it my whole life, and just acoustic music. Period. Whether it's jazz, bluegrass, Americana, indie, anything like that. I love acoustic music. That's my thing. I love live mic stuff. I just love it. That's where the real art form is for me, recording and capturing a great acoustic record and then really making it. Because if you capture a good acoustic record, I mean, man, there's nothing like it. There just really isn't. The natural feel and vibe to it, and the natural air to it is just, you can't beat it. I just love it. And those records were cut out at Maggard Sound in Big Stone Gap, Virginia, I think. Kind of like a bluegrass iconic studio. There's been tons and tons of Grammy award-winning bluegrass records cut out of there. And if you ever go there, I mean, when you drive up to it, it looks like a 1950s like jailhouse. I mean, it's an old cement building with bars on the windows and everything.
Probably very inspirational for bluegrass, right?
Yes.
A lot of songs been written about prison, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And but I mean, it's got an old MCA console that's been completely rebuilt.
MCA? MCI?
MCI, that's what I mean, not MCA. Yeah. MCI. Got RCA
Great sounding
on mine.
consoles.
Yeah, and it's an old MCI that's been completely redone with modified caps and like Lundell transformers throughout the whole thing. So I mean, just the console itself going straight out's great. But he's got a lot of good outboard gear and a lot of vintage mics. But he has a lot of the Peluso mics because Peluso lives pretty close by, and he has an endorsement through him. So I mean, you go there. I mean, you're going to get a good sound, and the room's set up well, and it's definitely set up for acoustic music. So, so that right out of the hole, it was a good, just good clean recording already. So I mean, the tracks really didn't need a lot of stuff afterwards. But my biggest tip I can give on acoustic music is, especially in today's modern mixing, everything is compressed. There's not enough compression, these days, for people. You can never have too much compression and limiting. And I'm, in the right time, right place, it's great, wonderful. But with acoustic music, it needs to breathe. And for me, what has really taken my acoustic music to the next level is heavy, because I believe it or not, if you listen to it, you'd never know it. But I use a ton of compression, a lot, but it's all parallel compression, and it's worked out really great for the acoustic music for me. And that's part of my sound that I know is what's working for me, because once I started implementing and really messing around with parallel compression in the acoustic music, that's when I could really get a natural sound, but still a really tight, punchy sound that the compression can give. And once I started doing that, the last record I did is, I think, where I really started honing in on exactly the sound I want, and it's the best record I've done, and that's the one that's at number 2 right now. And it's all due to I'm very Andrew Sheps like with the parallel compression. I wear it out, but it's in very, very minute amounts. I mean, if you're looking, and for me, every plugin now has a parallel knob. So I hardly ever set up a bus for my parallel compression unless it's something I like that just doesn't have the blend knob for it. But it's usually directly on the channel with whatever I'm using, like whether it's the Slate VMR stuff or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But as a reference, I may use 4 compressors on an acoustic guitar, but they're set up with like 10% of the blend, of the actual wet signal. And you would not believe the difference it makes to leveling it out and getting it exactly how you want it to sound. And you would not know there's any compression on it, just none whatsoever. And that's been the biggest thing for me. And with this other record that I was going to tell you about, it was Randy Kors on dobro, Mark Fain on bass, Andy Leftwich on fiddle and mandolin, and Ron Block on banjo and guitar. And basically everyone in the room except me and my dad had a shelf full of Grammys at their house. So so everyone there, the playing was absolutely stellar. We recorded it at the family room, so we were in a good recording environment, and everything, the tracks just came out great. But on that record, I really dialed in my chops on how I want to use parallel compression, and the record just came out great. And in fact, Randy Coors, because we always send the players a copy of everything we do, and he messaged me and he said, this is like no one ever gets my dobro to sound like that. It's always over compressed, super thin from where it's just slammed with compression. He said this whole record just breathes. This is acoustic music. And if I would have told him, like, dude, I had like 100 dB of compression combined on your dobro, yeah, and he never knew it. I mean, he never knew it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned compression and being able to breathe. I have an affinity for acoustic music too, because I feel like, you've been a member of Mixed Coach for quite a while, and you've heard me talk about this. But one of the two categories of music that I feel like there are is timeless and trendy. And acoustic music, and what I mean by that is that timeless music, like the record that you just mixed, when your great grandchildren hear your record, it's probably most likely going to be the same exact instruments, because bluegrassers, they hand their instruments down, and they're regarded as the holy grails of the dobro or whatever. I know Earl Scruggs' banjo was worth $5 million at one time.
Yeah.
People regard those instruments, but the thing about it is that very same banjo, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that was recorded 50, 60 years ago on some of those old bluegrass records. So there are two categories of music, in my opinion. It's timeless and trendy. Trendy is the kind of music that you listen to in the 70s and the 80s, and you go, oh yeah, that was a trend back then. Really dead drums,
Yep.
lots of reverb, delays everywhere, filtered vocals, all that kind of. You can kind of almost date it by forensically by listening to
Oh,
what they were doing to
absolutely,
it. But
absolutely.
in bluegrass, jazz, classical, classical, those kinds of music, the only difference will be how it was captured. Really, you shouldn't be able to tell that much difference except for the quality of it, the kind of music. Now, so I think it's very important that engineers learn to what a banjo should sound like, or what a violin should sound like, what an acoustic guitar or an acoustic piano should sound like, so that in this kind of music, which is really rubber meets the road, capture a performance type of recording, it's important that you learn to do that sort of thing. Now, I understand that guys that have never been interested in that, and they're only interested in dubstep and that sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand somebody not wanting to learn, but if you want to be a well-rounded engineer, like I feel like you and I are, and you want to be able to say, yes, I can solve that problem for you because I know how to record bluegrass, or yes, I can solve that problem for you because I know how to mix rock or country in the modern way. Then you've got to learn the difference in the two musics, and understand too that just because you can't hear compression doesn't mean you're not compressing it. Like you said, it's just the artifacts of a compressor that you don't want to hear.
Exactly.
But okay,
Exactly.
so man, let me say congratulations to all your success lately. It's nothing nothing small what you and your dad have done with your record company. I want to let me make one more little side road here, this is meant to encourage engineers too. Um, Matt is in a position where it's not just the quality of your mixes, Matt. At least this is my opinion, and please feel free to chime in here. The quality of your mixes definitely is an important thing, but also you have to put yourself in an environment that lends itself to getting number one songs, if that's what your goal is.
Hmm.
You have to put yourself around the writers, that write
Oh
good
yes,
songs. You have to put
absolutely,
yourselves around the singers who can sing it well, the musicians, of course, as we've talked about, who can play it
absolutely.
well, and then your job comes in where you capture all that stuff and mix it. But then there's a whole other end that your dad is a genius at, and that is promoting what you've done, or what you've captured, what you've mixed and
Oh,
packaged well.
absolutely,
You have
absolutely.
to, you have to be in an environment. It's just like, this is a thing I heard on churches the other day. I was at Rick Warren's church, and he was saying, and to me it just rung a bell, and it was true on so many levels. He said, you can't expect to grow a church to 20,000 people if you're in a town that's 1,000 people. I mean, it's really an impossible thing to think that 19,000 other people are going to come into your small town for your service. And then you got to think about parking. If you can only
Yeah,
park 50 cars, you can't expect to get to 20,000
sure,
people. So
sure.
what rung true with me is like, if you're first of all, if you're not mixing different styles of music and learning the intricacies of each one of those styles of music, you can't really expect to be able to mix that kind of music well when someone asks you to mix it. So you have to
Hmm.
be well trained. You can't. Sadly, a lot of really good music goes unheard because there's no marketing tools. There's no way for people to say, "Hey, listen to what Matt's mixed." Your dad kind of takes the ball from there and puts it on radio.
Hmm.
He does a plethora of other things to promote the music. So I guess my encouragement is that you have to surround yourself with a team who can take what you've done and promote it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just one thing. You can't just mix well and expect the whole world to stand up and take notice. You got to put it out there on a platform too. So I mean, what recommendations would you give guys? Okay, let's do this. Since this is the first time I've done this, Matt, why don't you give us, putting you on the spot here. Why don't you give us one tip for give us one tip for either mixing the music, capturing something, maybe a plugin that you've used, something. Why don't you give the guys one good tip that's like, man, this is something I go to all the time.
Okay. Well, I can give you an hour's worth of stuff here, but you know how I geek out. But the biggest thing, and this will branch back to the biggest thing probably I took from you personally, and it goes straight from the tracking into the mix phase. Because if you tracked it, you need to do check this, especially if I'm tracking something and I'm not mixing it and I'm sending it out. Man, I take such pride in my work. I won't send it to where the engineer has to do anything to it. If I'm tracking a bass, if I'm tracking stereo guitars, I'm going to make sure that thing's phase aligned. I
Mm,
don't want that. I don't want that mix engineer have to go flip the phase on a bass DI, to match the amp and then time align it. I'm gonna do all that myself because I take pride in what I do, and I don't want to have to send it to them and have to do a bunch of stuff to it. And that's the biggest thing I took away from you was the phase stuff.
mhm.
I mean, I'm a phase Nazi. So, I mean, because it makes such the little things make such the biggest difference in something like phase, especially on drums. That's a given. But if you're stereo tracking acoustic guitars, like anything, man, piano, man, I mean, check the phase, man. Just do it.
Mhm.
You can just sometimes you'll get it in phase and you're like, wow, man, I mean, I don't need to do anything else to this, as opposed to if you're sitting there listening to it trying to screw around with it and try to make chicken salad out of chicken crap and nothing's happening. And
It's so chicken.
you know what I mean, and
That's awesome, man. My brain is going crazy right now. Chicken salad out of chicken crap. That's cool. I mean, I'm big on phase two, and I think that if engineers could learn one thing, it's to own that phase thing, because really there's no plugin that you can use short of a phase correction plugin
Mhm.
that will get your music as further faster than getting it phase aligned. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So Matt, thank you. That's a great tip, and I completely agree with you. Um, Give us. I know you are a plugin aficionado. I know
I
you
am.
you have done
Guilty.
a lot of
Guilty.
plugin reviews for Mixcoach on behalf of
Mhm.
Mixcoach, and thank you for doing that. So you study plugins. So
I do.
given the fact that you've got a lot of plugins, I'm going to take every plugin you've ever owned away from you except for one. Which one do you want to keep? Now, it doesn't have to be a plug-in. Maybe you want to narrow it down to a line of plugins or a certain brand of plugins. I know that's a tough question.
Well, all right. Well, we'll play both. If I had to choose a company, it would have to be Slate because everything he's put out and man. I mean, I use it on everything.
Right.
Whether I use and I literally use just about every single thing in every single every single mix I do. Just about. Sometimes I don't, but it's few and far between. So as a company, definitely that. Now, if I was just to single it down to just one plugin, that is really difficult.
Okay, let me make it easier for you. Give me one EQ plugin.
Okay. Well, that's okay. That's better. Straight up, just straight EQ. It's probably gonna have to be the Fab Filter Pro Q2.
Okay.
Just because I mean it's pretty stinking versatile.
What's one thing on that EQ that makes it like unbelievable? Because I do not have that plugin.
The coolest thing I've gotten from that plugin is if I'm looking for specific frequencies that jump out, it has you hover the mouse over the frequency spectrum and it will start to solidify and show you exactly where the peak is of whatever it is you're trying to find, and you can go and run your mouse over it, and it will cut out an exact notch filter of that frequency. I mean, like it'll fine tune the Q for you and everything.
Wow.
You don't have to do anything, so it takes out that exact resonance for you.
Okay. Awesome.
And I mean that's been indispensable. That's been I mean it's been awesome. So,
but I love the de-esser that they put out, and
man,
it's my go-to for sure. I'll check that out. Okay, so I'm gonna make this easy for you. 2 categories of compressor: one you can't hear and one you love to hear.
Okay, all right, fair enough. One that you can't hear, and probably not a lot of people know about this one. It's Sonorous, their mastering compressor. It's the only compressor I've ever used without actually, you don't have to run it in parallel, and you can hit this thing pretty hard, and you do not hear it. It's the only compressor I'll use on a piano and not actually blend it in because you can't hear it. You can't hear it, and I'm especially with piano. I'm very picky about compression on a piano, but sometimes you just get one that's just. I mean, it's it's a headache. The dynamics are everywhere, and this thing is. I mean, it's phenomenal. I could probably hit it with 6 to 8 dB of gain reduction. Just like I wouldn't actually do that, but I could do it and send it to you in a file and have you listen to it. And you would not think it was compressed.
Okay,
it's incredible.
Okay, so that's a Sonorous, Sonoris.
ORIS.
Okay, and what's the model number of it?
Mastering compressor. That's what it's called.
Okay, and what is the price range of that?
The Sonorous mastering compressor, I think's like 200. I think. Don't hold me to it. It's somewhere in that range, like 200 or something. But I mean, dude, it's incredible.
Okay.
It's absolutely incredible.
Okay, so go back to the Fab Filter. I'm going to try to put these in notes under this interview.
Okay.
Fab Filter. What was the model of that?
The Pro Q2, the newest version, number 2's out.
Okay.
Pro and Q2. It's like $199, I think.
Okay. Okay, so now give me your favorite compressor that you love to hear.
That I love to hear. Well, I tell you what, I love the Slate, like the 1176 model, especially the bundle he just put out. But Lindell Audio, like he's teamed up with Plug-in Alliance now, but he did a model of the Neve, the 254E. Mm-hmm. And dude, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. I'd have to say right now that's probably my favorite that I like to hear because it's such a you can really hear the smoothness of it. It's not super aggressive, but especially if you like running on a drum bus, I mean, it just brings it to life. But it doesn't sound like it's just beating the crap out of it.
Okay, so Lindell, what was it called again? 250.
The 254E.
Okay, and roughly what is that?
I think it's like 150.
That's a Neve model, right? That's like the 2254.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a 2254 model.
Okay, awesome. That's good stuff because I don't have any of these, and so I'll probably be checking them out pretty soon myself. Hey Matt, I know you got to get busy. We've been on this phone call for a while, and I know today's probably not like any other, not different than any other day. You're probably going to be in the studio all day
I am.
working. What are you recording today?
Today I'm actually doing some mixing for Zane and Donna King. So, and then I have a 10 and a 2 Monday and a 10 and a 2 Tuesday. So,
Cool, cool. Well, Matt, thank you for taking this time this morning. I know we had to negotiate our calendars because Matt's always busy, and I'm on a different time zone now, so it's affecting me a little bit. But anyway, Matt, thanks for all the insight that you gave us on the interview today. Congratulations on all your success
sir.
so far. I know you're just beginning, and keep up the good work, man.
Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So how can people find you real quick? How can people find you?
Uh,
Website and
we have butlermusicgroup.com,
okay,
so they can find anything out about they need for any kind of services, recording, mixing, mastering. We offer mastering, uh, editing, and then then there's the whole publishing side. If they need to find songs, if they're needing to publish their songs, things like that, management consultation, radio promotions, all of that.
you do it all, huh? One stop shop.
Try to, man.
You're the consummate problem solver.
Well,
You're not.
I'm the overseer of all the. I'm basically the studio manager and do all that.
Yeah.
He'll produce, but his thing is overseeing the entire business side of the radio and all that kind of stuff. That's his specialty. That's his
Cool.
niche.
Okay. Well, Matt, thanks again for your time this morning, and we'll be looking forward to hearing some stuff from you again soon. All right.
I hope so, man.
All right. See you soon.
All right, man.